Cyrus Driver. Throughout his career, Cyrus Driver has been a leader in empowering communities demanding education opportunity. Cyrus is the Director of Program Learning and Innovation at the Ford Foundation. While at Ford, Cyrus played an instrumental role in the vision and creation of Communities for Education Reform, a national donor collaborative supporting grassroots movements for systematic reforms that address educational inequalities. Before joining the foundation, Cyrus co-directed coalition building and parent organizing strategies at Designs for Change in Chicago, where he helped lead a reform movement to decentralize control of Chicago's 600 public schools and give more power to the boards of parents, school-level educators, and community leaders.
You also have a great deal of power and are building power. So you too, we believe, can set a very different and we believe more powerful school reform agenda in the years to come.
The Schott Foundation is pleased to present Cyrus Driver with the Change Agent Award.
The weight of the world on my shoulder as I'm getting older.
And now on behalf of the Schott Foundation, of Designs for Change, and of all of us who have worked with you to protect Chicago school reform, I'm proud to present the Change Agent Award for Educational Equity to Cyrus Driver. Thank you. We also have a book of pictures and documents that reflect Cyrus's accomplishments in bringing about fundamental change in Chicago and also in playing basketball.
Thank you. Thank you, Don. Thank you so much. And we're not going to show you those pictures. Some of them, as Don mentioned, are at least R-rated, at least the basketball playing ones. You know, I was given 4 minutes to speak. I'll probably take 1 or 2 minutes longer, but I'll try to be as brief as possible. I'm certain I would not be standing here today if it were not for Don Moore. Don Moore is quite simply one of the most brilliant educational activists and advocates this country has seen in the last 50 years. It is his vision of the Chicago decentralization that I worked tirelessly to support and enable in my time in Chicago. It was his ideas that led to this profound, profound reform that endures to this day, and had it been more fully supported by the powers that be in Chicago, could have led to a transformational change in urban public schooling in the U.S. And hopefully one day we'll actually see that happen. One person, again, I would like to thank that Don mentioned is Joan Jeter-Slay, my greatest mentor and our friend and colleague at Designs for Change. Joan taught me many things, but most importantly, she helped me to appreciate the centrality of trusting and enduring relationships in our lives and in our work. Often our work towards social justice feels quixotic, nearly impossible to succeed. While we're sparked by our passion and our values, that's what gets us going. What keeps us going are our friends and our partners, picking each other up and reminding each other that our struggle together matters and does indeed make a difference, and that our fates are shared. Joan, thank you. And I know all of those at Designs for Change, Victor, Sue, others, I know you remember Joan. She's in our hearts. And of course, I want to thank the Schott Foundation for this great honor. John and Cassie, you are passionate and visionary friends and leaders in school reform. I should say, though, when Cassie called me a month and a half ago to let me know about this award, the first thing that came to mind and the first thing I said to her was, "Are you sure you meant to call me? Are you sure you didn't dial the wrong number?" But I guess she didn't, so. I also want to thank the Ford Foundation for giving me the opportunity of a lifetime to support reforms I never thought I could possibly do. And to my many friends in philanthropy and all the organizations I've supported, this is really as much your award as it is mine. I won't bore you with a long speech, though as many of you know, I probably could and probably want to. But rather, I'd just like to suggest 3 broad fronts that we must work on in the coming decades if we're going to truly see great schools for all of our children. First, we need a shared vision of the schools we want to see. We progressives might assume we have such a vision, but the fights we choose and the sides we take suggest otherwise. We find ourselves split as to whether we push for charter schools, we fight against them, or in many instances, just pretend we're sitting on the sidelines on that question. We're split on the need to leverage reform through accountability, and what kind of accountability. We don't have a clear perspective on what it means to have schools with difference and where race plays in, as Rinku mentioned. We're not clear on where we stand on instructional practices or on curriculum. The work that I supported in integrated arts education at the Ford Foundation taught me the power of the arts to bring voice and student imagination in schooling, to democratize classrooms. But instead, many of us choose to expend our energy on STEM, ELL, and other curricular questions. I'm not diminishing the value of those. We just don't have a clear sense of what our priorities are. And here in Chicago, the governance reform that Don talked about, how powerful it was, it's not clear how enduring it can be without more widespread support. So point 1, we need clarity on what we stand for in classrooms, in schools, and systems. We need a clear vision. Point 2, if history is any guide, pursuing such a vision will require a broad-based movement mounted over decades. I'm so happy to see the AEJ folks here, because long after I'm gone, you're still going to be fighting. and I'm glad to know that there's the next generation coming along. This movement will need to be intergenerational, interracial. It'll need to confront dominant cultural norms, powerful political forces, and institutional practices that negate, and I mean this, negate the value of children of color and poor white kids in our schools. Negate the value of these children. To pursue this vision, we can't work in a piecemeal way or on separate initiatives, and we must be strategic. While I've been lucky to work at a foundation like the Ford Foundation with lots of money, the main source of progressive power, and something that Joan Slay always taught us, was that the greatest source of progressive power are people, families, young people, educators, and scholars. And the people who work in our organizations, like Don Moore, at Target, LSNA, Action Now, and other organizations here in Chicago, and in foundations like Schott, where Cassie and John are leading the charge. Going forward, we'll need a larger, more unified coalition that goes beyond the OTL campaign, which I believe is a really important start in building a collective movement. But we're going to need to go much, much farther. We'll need to be strategic about tackling the norms, politics, and practices that resist progressive social change. And we'll need to be in it for the long haul. We can't play at school reform. We're going to have to work at it for the decades to come, and we're going to have to work at it together. And finally, point 3, a vision and a movement can lay the foundation for change, but we continue to be challenged, to be vexed by what I call the bureaucracy problem. We need a rethink of the purpose and functions of the large, long-standing systems that we need to deliver quality schooling to every child, namely school districts, unions, teacher ed programs, and other such systems. We have yet to come up with coherent, comprehensive ways to untie the Gordian knot that constrain these institutions from significant change. This is a problem of organizational mandates, of organizational history and culture. And we desperately need fresh thinking about what we would do with these systems, even if we were to get a vision and policy reforms in place. We'd be foolhardy to abandon these institutions, to think that we can bring about broad-scale change for millions of children without them. But we need to rethink these institutions and their purposes going forward. So, I suggest 3 jobs for us going forward in the decades to come: a shared vision that we can build, a movement, and a rethinking of bureaucracy. These are big jobs, but they are ones I look forward to working on with all of you in the years to come. Thank you again to the Schott Foundation for this award. I'm deeply honored.